Hey everybody, it's your friend the Tech Troublemaker, and tonight we start off the episode with issues because that's how things go. Tonight I have my wonderful guest Dan Roth, who is a LinkedIn expert, a diversity champion, and just going to be amazing. He's going to drop so much knowledge on you tonight, so you're going to really appreciate that. And we were having audio issues, and it said, hey, so I don't know what's going on there, but I guess we'll find out if it begins to work. So, waiting on him to come back. Yeah, Dan Roth Consulting. While we're waiting, hey, let's talk about all the cool places where you can meet Dan. Let's go share Chrome. So this is Dan Roth on LinkedIn. And then, look here, 43,000 followers. I should zoom in here. Hello, come on, mouse. You know, sometimes you want to zoom and it won't. It will, and then it won't, and then yeah. Let's see what happens. There we go. All right. So, yeah. So, yeah, he's got some followers. He's got a few followers. So, he is an excellent guest to talk to us about LinkedIn. And the reason LinkedIn came to my attention so much is that lately I have found by posting links to my YouTube videos on LinkedIn, I get a lot more traction on my videos. You know, while we're waiting on him to show up, I'll go to my channel. I'll share and I'll show you what's going on the back behind the scenes. Move my head out of the way. Get out of my way. Jay, when your head gets in the way. Yes, I do too. Analytics. Audience. I know, I'm doing this on the fly because that's how I do things. Let's share. Begin the sharing of eCam. There we go. All right, so let's go. Oh, here he comes.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Hold on, because now I can't hear you.
I won't say anything then. I'll just be quiet.
Where are my settings?
Okay. Recommendations. All right. So.
Bear with me 1 second.
Absolutely. Anyway, so it's going to show.
Where the hell are those settings?
Let's go to external links. So it's going to show you that, like, for example,
Screen
the last video I did last week had tons of views come from an external source. And that external source was LinkedIn. So it's quite amazing. So, all right. Let's see if we can get Dan in the mix. So my guest tonight is Dan Roth, who doesn't hear anything that we're saying right now. He's got Lala trapped up in the corner there. So let's see what happens here. Earth to Dan.
Hey, Roy, just give me 1 second because I can't hear you for the life of me. Let me see if... Oh, we are.
Yeah. But that's okay.
Okay, so
we got time.
Now I'm here. Well, now I'm hearing you through here.
Don't you
I
when audio
don't
makes
want...
you crazy?
Yeah, audio does make me crazy. How can I do this? I want to make sure that
see who's out there visiting us while you work through that.
Yeah. Hey, everybody.
I know we got a few folks.
Oh, yeah, and
there.
you have me small. Lala, I can't even see that I have her picture in my thing.
Yeah, hang on. Well, unfortunately, I didn't know what your scene was going to be like, and I have a set
It's
of
all
scenes,
good.
so I was like, oh, I know. So anyway, we'll make it work. We'll make it work. That's okay. And
let me try something real quick.
Let's don't do 4K right now. Like, but I want to do 4K. I love 4K. So anyway, hey, Sammy Superstar, how are you doing tonight? Say hi to you. Yep. Hi, 2 other people waiting. Yep. Yay, Dagan, how you doing tonight? Sammy caught the last part of your live stream just now, but you were already saying goodbye. Really?
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Can you still hear me?
I can still hear you.
Okay, so I just had to plug my headset into my computer instead of over here. So sorry about that, folks. I didn't realize I was live on the show. I didn't mean to curse.
I think we missed that totally. So it's all
okay.
good.
That's good.
You were probably still fighting the battle. So
yeah, it's great to see you. Where's Katie? Katie said she would be here.
Let's see. Let's go to this scene. There. Zoom out there. All right. So I mean, to really get To really appreciate
It's okay.
the scene, we have to go here. There we go. So there you go. Lala, how you doing up there tonight? He's got you in the upper corner there.
Oh
And
yeah, and I
Matt.
actually have to. Here we go. Now we've got it going.
Cool.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I told you I wanted to make your head spin. So if I actually, this is for you.
Yep. Oh, gotta see the headspin part. There we go. It's true. I did before the show make sure that my head was bolted on properly to make sure we were okay. So, all right. Yeah. So we got lots of folks out there tonight. So let's get started talking about it. So, Dan, the whole reason I wanted you on here is because you are amazing on LinkedIn. And yeah, a lot of us are figuring out, hey, if we post content on LinkedIn, if we post links to our YouTube channel, a lot of that external traffic that YouTube sees is people clicking on those links on LinkedIn and seeing our videos on YouTube. So for example, last week's video, for example, I probably got 30 views just because of posting a link on LinkedIn last week. So just the point being is that people should really look at posting content on LinkedIn there and get it, make sure people see it. And then I wanted to kind of dig in deeper because there for a long time LinkedIn didn't matter. I mean, it really didn't.
Nope.
They just didn't know what to do with themselves. And so I've got some questions for you.
Well, first of all, the pandemic humanized the world. And I think that's where you saw the great shift.
Yeah.
But just to be clear for everybody watching, first of all, hey everyone, it's nice to see you outside of the comments. But everything I do is all about repurposing. So yes, I talk about LinkedIn, but everything I do really has the functionality to be able to utilize on multiple mediums and do a smarter, not harder approach. It just so happens that LinkedIn was where I got my feet on the ground, and where I've accelerated at a higher speed than most.
No, definitely can tell that by visiting your LinkedIn page for sure. All right, so we're gonna come back. I'm gonna get you to tell us your origin story in just a little bit. All right. So Surrey says, does LinkedIn matter? So first question, does LinkedIn matter to anyone that isn't a job seeker?
Is this a question you're asking me or a question for the audience?
That's a question for you, sir.
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, it used to not. But like I mentioned at the beginning of the pandemic, when things started happening, we realized that there had to be a personal approach. There had to be a mental health aspect to everything that we're doing, because all these different components are conglomerated when you talk about somebody's individual life. Like, I'm not just the sum of my job. I'm what happens at 6 a.m. when my kids wake up to the point I take them to school, then go to my job. And then how do I actually handle the rigors of that job? How do I handle the pressure, the stress? And what wound up happening is that a lot of people started talking about this, because with so many people laid off, they needed an outlet. And LinkedIn was the outlet that allowed them to do that in a functional environment where companies could also see what was being put out there. And it made a seismic change. The other thing that occurred was that LinkedIn really wanted to get involved in the creator capacity, and they started putting out more and more in order to utilize, because 5 years ago there was 700 million users on LinkedIn. Only 1.6 were content creators. We're sitting here 5 years later, and it's still only about 2%. So, but now we're at 1 billion users, which was actually beat forecast. It was supposed to be January of this year. It was actually back in November. So with 2% that are content creators and a heavy emphasis on that, there's a tremendous opportunity for those that want to speak not just about the job market, but all these different things that it entails. Is it a dating site? No, I'm not going to claim it to be. Do I think that Lala can go on and do her crafts without a couple side eyes? I'm not so sure. But overall, it's very much more of I would say, and I'm going to use this word again, I hate using words twice, it's almost a conglomeration of all these different social media sites rolled into one.
Okay, definitely. Next question someone asked, what are key elements of a compelling LinkedIn profile that can attract a larger audience and help content creators establish credibility on the platform?
So first thing that I want to say is that I'm not a LinkedIn coach. Everything I've done has been through trial and error. I don't like to make false statements. Um, and LinkedIn profiles are very deceiving because there's a lot of intricacies to them that not many people understand or know about, and others that have no use. Uh, Keeping this short and sweet, the first thing I would tell everybody is that, especially for content creators, is that banner is the first thing people see, and you have an opportunity to be creative within the confines of that banner. So if you're an artist, if you're a graphic designer, if you are Fulgens Henry and create these awesome scenes, or Paul Dixon, um, utilize that to your advantage and showcase who you are, and showcase what you do, because the goal of it is to get people to look down and learn more about you. The only other thing I'll mention is, and this is just coming from as a former recruiter, everybody has the ability to alter their profile URL. It's right to the right when you look at your profile. For professionals like me, if we see somebody with the numbers at the end, that's a clear sign that they're not taking the platform seriously.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. So the ones without pictures makes me crazy. Why would anybody go on LinkedIn and not put a picture? What's going on there?
Protection. So there's about 5 different variations of how they could do that. So one is you could only show your picture to your followers and your connections. Others, you don't have to show your picture at all. I'm not, look, I don't connect with anybody that doesn't have a photo, but at the same time, I do understand privacy concerns. Um, and I certainly understand it even more when you're already in a position of power and you don't necessarily, you're not necessarily on the job search. Uh, but again, profiles and all this kind of stuff is way more conducive to creatives than I ever was before in a multiple of capacities.
So so I've heard people say hashtags play a role in LinkedIn. Do you use hashtags at all? Do you find there's any traction to using hashtags?
I do by habit, but I don't think they mean anything.
Hmm.
Um, so here's the thing: if you want to own a hashtag, all you have to do is type a hashtag into a post, click on it, and if you're the first person to click on it, then you're. I mean, it's sort of one of those hidden rules that you're the owner of it. Um, there was a time and place where they were pushing it, and they were saying like between 3 and 7 is ideal. Again, I use it by habit, but more so than anything, if people are using it, it's to see, when you pull it up, all the things that have been tagged with that will show. But do I think that there's a huge level of relevancy? No.
Okay. Uh, Dan, how did you get your start with content creation? I mean, was LinkedIn where you started off first, or you mentioned earlier that lots of different platforms, but LinkedIn's where you started getting traction. Just how kind of did you get started?
I'm a journalism major.
Okay.
So my degree is actually in journalism and public relations. I work for newspapers, TV, radio, the whole 9 yards, and I was always a feature writer. So when I graduated with my degree, the first thing I did is I covered music in Asbury Park, where Springsteen started,
Hmm.
and I have some funny stories about that for a different time. Um, but then really interesting story, and I'll make it quick. Uh, I was focused on journalism until I moved out here to San Diego from the East Coast, and I was at a Yankee game that my now wife got me tickets to. So it was Padres, Yankees, and the guy sitting behind us and I struck up a conversation. Soon thereafter, I get a call from him, and he put me in contact with one of the senior producers at ESPN. And him and I had a conversation. He's like, Dan, I could get you a role here, but you're going to be traveling around wherever you could get something, and you won't make $40,000 till probably you're 40 years old. At that point, I realized that I knew my girlfriend at that point was going to be my wife. It wasn't in the cards for me, so I stopped creating content. And then, right when the pandemic hit, I was in a rough spot, and I came on, and I didn't necessarily have the inkling to create content, but I realized that if I was going to be in this position as a job seeker, as a father, I needed to do so my own way. So the first thing I did when I joined LinkedIn is I went on video. I said, "Hey, my name's Dan. I'm ADHD and I deal with depression." And I immediately put it out there, but then I deleted it so that I couldn't see it. So I couldn't delete it because I didn't want to have that thought where, hey, I'm going to take this back and push it back. And once I did that, it was very freeing. And then I started working on different things. So like being a newspaper writer, first thing I started with was articles. But then when I realized that didn't hit, I tried text posts and picture posts and all these different things until I realized what was generating. And at that point, I saw that there was a gap in the market, that nobody was putting job seekers in connection with recruiters in the body of a post. I created one. I fought hard for 4 or 5 months. After that, it started generating 100,000 views every single week and 1,000 comments. And that wound up leading to a 13,000 person private community on LinkedIn. I became a top voice. I became a top voice, recognized one of the top job search experts in the world. But what that also allowed me to do is once I had that stationary post, I was able to add other things to it. So if I had the stationary post on a Tuesday, then because I knew people were going to be looking for me anyway, because I had this exposure, I started putting out posts about ADHD and mental health and about being somebody, a male with an eating disorder and body dysmorphia. And it allowed me to really show who I was, and from a very granular perspective. And I was able to do so because I had that hook. And that's something a lot of people don't understand. When you're able to fundamentally create something that people keep getting drawn back to, one of the greatest benefits is it's freeing in the fact that you can then increase the perspective and awareness on these other things that you want to do because of that gain and exposure.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. And it's the fact that you lean in to something and say, this is me, and lean into that. There's so many creators that they don't want to be themselves. They want to be some variation on the theme of somebody else. And so that's unfortunate because you miss out, and people really don't get to see the true you. And I think, part of our jobs as content creators is present, information that's useful for our viewers, our community, and also to just be ourselves, and people gravitate toward personalities. They do that, and so if we're trying to be somebody else, then that's you got to be unique just like everybody else, and that's what I like about that. So I really like that. That's a good story.
And I appreciate that because, and whenever Lala talks, I have to listen. She's like the mother of the group. Lala, I would need some more information to answer that question. But what's really interesting about this, and I hate the term authenticity. It's not.
That is music. Sorry, I'll fix
Okay.
it.
No, I like the music. I just wasn't expecting it. I'm like, am I in an elevator right now? Um, so this is an important thing for me to talk about. After 2 years of doing this post, and there's a lot of idiosyncrasies that go into it, and obviously we only have a finite amount of time, so I can't get into every single detail. But after 2 years, it wasn't worth it to me anymore. The time wasn't worth it. I was looking at the next phase of my development, and truth be told, at my peak, I was getting 1,000 followers every week and about 1,500 connection requests. I actually had to get LinkedIn Premium specifically so I could put an away message. And so after 2 years, I had to make a conscious decision. Was this still worth doing? Or did I want to progress with who I am? And did I want to have that sort of my own arch? And I stopped doing it. And that was a big blow because I no longer had that staple that were leading people to my page. And I went from getting 50,000 views every post to getting 20, 25, which is by all standards extremely like, I'm not complaining about that, but it was a gross reduction in what I was used to. But the difference was when you do this intentionally, I've been putting out better content since that point. I'm happier with the content now than if I kept on going with this huge thing and just been run down, burnt out the night, the whole 9 yards. I've also turned away 65, 70,000 connection requests. And, so I'm sitting there with 43,000 followers, which I'm very grateful for, but it's intentional community as opposed to just saying yes to everyone. And it's meant a lot more to me than otherwise, but like, I think I ran the numbers once, and right now I should be around 150 to 200,000 followers if I'd kept going the way I was. Um, and that's not a pat on the back. It's a very strong point that sometimes we have to choose the right path for us, but the right path won't always mean the most eyes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the question I have for you there is, would there have been anything left of you if you had kept pushing and you reached that number? It's kind of like you got there all
No,
for nothing, is what I would see with a scenario like that. What is your thought on that?
I mean, so it wasn't just LinkedIn when I first started. When I first started, Clubhouse was at its onset, and I had 15, 20,000 followers on Clubhouse, but I went into each space and I said, how can I maximize my reach and my capability within these spaces? And then I would bring everybody back to LinkedIn. Um, so LinkedIn was my hub, and I would go, these other places. And I was at my peak, I was doing content 18 hours a day while also watching my kids. And I was burning at the flame, but I had to do it to get to a place where I could stop. Um, so if I had kept going, I mean, I already live in a place of perpetual burnout. I never would have survived. But this is the thing. Some people get caught in a wave. Other people go swimming, understanding where they need to stop in order to keep riding the next one. And I think that was one of those things that I had going for me. And I'm gonna say something that may surprise people. I firmly believe that it's because of my ADHD, because of the way that I operate, that I did have that foresight and focus and planning, and was able to do. I mean, even if we bring it back to Ecamm, um, and we bring it back to sort of the stuff that you and I do, when I started, to give an example, like I knew I couldn't afford to have your kind of setup. I knew I couldn't be a Doc Rock. Um, so what I wound up doing is I utilized the connections I had. I started looking at company pages and I started seeing, oh, well, Elgato's got a partner program. Let me apply for that. And then what happens is by having this foresight, I was able to build out this huge studio where I'm probably sitting in a $10,000 studio and I've paid $500 or $600 for it. And I'm not gloating, but my point is that with content creation on LinkedIn, wherever it is, if you look forward and if you look at each thing with multiple sets of glasses, it could often lead to some really amazing results.
Definitely agree with that. We got a lot of comments out there, so let's catch up on that. Let's see. Everybody saying hi to each other. Thanks for sharing that.
Always.
Yeah.
I told, it's funny. I told Gabe, I said, Gabe, you're going live at the same time as me. He said, Yvette told me to. No, I'm just kidding. But oh God,
well,
I
he's
used to
got a
love
topic I
going to
can't.
beach.
I'm married. I don't need dating tips, so that's where Gabe is right now.
Well, I mean, Gabe's essentially married, but okay, folks, you're gonna hear something you probably don't usually hear on Roy's show. When he chose that title for his show, oh my God. I'm trying to be appropriate, so I'm gonna hold back what I was gonna say. I was just like, that is the wrong thing to write. Somebody's gonna Google and expecting to see one thing and get your show.
Mhm.
And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Are you talking about my title? Yeah.
No, no,
Yeah.
no, Gabe's.
Oh,
Gabe's.
Gabe's.
The one,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, the one that I won't say out loud because I can't without laughing.
He's definitely had some interesting titles. Yeah, I was yeah, I tripped out by it, but I jumped on one
Yeah.
night just to say hey, and I'm like, yeah, I don't need dating tips, but hey, I'm glad to see Gabe and see you back live again because he was offline for so long.
I
Um,
gotta tell you, I've seen him, I've watched almost every show he's done for 3 years, and I've almost never watched with the volume on. I literally just go on to Razum, not even
mhm.
caring what the topic is. But that's our relationship. He's like a brother to me, an older, fatter brother.
Yeah. So Matt, hopefully my audio is better. I just bumped up the gain. I just there's a level if I go too loud on the gain, I get background noise, which I don't want that for anybody. Wow, head spin Roy. Yeah, we'll show that again here in a minute. We'll show the head spin. I might
Yeah.
start using LinkedIn all the time after this live stream. Yeah, Sammy, you'll be shocked how many more views on YouTube you get from LinkedIn. The other part is, and we're going to talk about here in a minute, is making content specifically for LinkedIn to build credibility, to build authority. That's the kind of things. Lala says, friends, don't forget to hit that like button and share the awesome
Yeah,
stream.
Lala's great about that. I got to be honest with you. I didn't know who Lala was until your show because uh we weren't connected within the community. Once I got to know Lala through your show and got to talk to her, I don't know if there's I don't know if I've met somebody that's grabbed my respect and admiration more in such a short period of time um, than Lala. Like when I heard she made all those things for everybody at the Creator Camp, my first thought was that is a special, special woman. Um,
Yeah.
so I have to give a lot of love to her.
Oh yeah. Lala's amazing. Definitely, she inspires me. She's inspired so many others. Let's see. She says, never thought that LinkedIn would be relevant for me, but the more I watch Dan and hear about his LinkedIn journey, I'm more convinced I should work on my LinkedIn account. Definitely, I definitely the key there is we'll talk about that here in a minute is figuring out what makes sense. So she's got a question, Dan. I plan to offer crafting as a team building alternative activity.
This is what I
This
was
could be,
referring to before
yeah,
that I needed more content with in order to
yeah,
answer it. Because team building, because I don't know if she's asking, should I start a group? I don't know if she's asking, is this something I should promote? Um, Jit,
yeah.
that's for you, obviously.
Yeah, just more. I'm waiting to
Mr.
see if she
Hicks.
showed up. But yes, Mr.
Yeah.
Hicks in the house. He wanted to know if I had Instagram set up. So we're also broadcasting Instagram as an experiment.
Oh, wow.
Because I wanted to just see how the chat feature was going to work. Of course, we're not optimized video wise right now for Instagram, so I do apologize to those guys that are out there watching it there.
That's actually an example of what I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Instagram comments aren't worth it to me. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason being is because everybody's talking about these Instagram comments. And
Yeah.
I had Instagram Live before almost anybody on Ecamm. I don't know why, but for me, there has to be a reason for me to utilize the tool. And it's one thing for it to just be for fun, but if it's not going to help me grow an audience and get my point across or sell my workshop, then I'm not going to
Yeah.
invest the time to actually focus on it. I told Stephanie, I said, Stephanie, this is great for you, but I just because the thing with Instagram Live for anybody that hasn't used it is you have to get all of those different pieces,
Yeah.
the URL and everything, and put it in, and then go back and forth. That's just too tedious for me.
Yeah, Robert, it's good to hear from you. Yeah, and I agree. Well, you have the same thing with Kick, and you have the same thing with Rumble and the other platforms out there. Of course, uh, Ecamm doesn't bring in comments from those yet, but they're so niche that I'm not sure yet they're going to make it in the long run. We'll just wait and see. Mama Guy says I used to do team building activities for companies, but the usual stuff, amazing race, those kind of things. But would like to integrate crafting activities. I will reach out. So
Yeah, please do, Lala. I'm always willing to support you in any way I can. The hardest thing about supporting Lala is the time difference.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. Well, she's an hour ahead of us in the future.
Yeah,
Well,
but
she's
I'm in
13 hours, but yeah.
Calif- yeah, I mean, but I'm in California.
Bun Bun's family. I subscribe. Oh, well, thank you, Bun Bun's family. I welcome to the channel. Uh, and Florence, hey Florence saying hey to
Hey,
Joseph out
Florence.
there. So everybody, yeah, yeah, I'm all about experimentation. So I was half joking, half serious. So I saw an article, I believe it was in the Washington Post, where sadly, for better or worse, people are trying to use LinkedIn as a dating app. I first of all, I don't think you should mix work and dating. I don't know, but I met my wife at work, so maybe that's not entirely true. But LinkedIn, is yeah, really.
Yeah, but somebody. I think somebody that actually met their current fiance there. And I'm allowed to say this because it's public knowledge. But do
Mm,
you know Steve Worthy?
yeah.
Yeah, Steve met his fiance on there.
Oh, cool.
Stephen,
Wow.
yeah, Stephen Share. Yeah, but you hit the nail on the head. And okay, because of the work I do, I don't want to overly get into this because it will lead down a different path. But what I would say is it's very, very, very inappropriate
Yeah.
to utilize LinkedIn as a dating app.
Well, definitely your HR side of you. There's so many red flags go off. I'm sure from the HR side of you that's had some experience with that. That's just So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but it's not even the HR, it's the humanity work that I do. It's, I fight for women's rights and women's equity. So, and I've seen so many disgusting things that have happened. But you mentioned something before about cultivating content just for LinkedIn, and I don't think you
Hmm.
need to do that.
Really.
Yeah, I don't think you need to do that. It actually defeats the entire purpose of what I do,
Hmm.
because the content that I create is very much linear across platforms. Like if I'm okay, I'm going to give everybody a trigger warning because what I'm about to say is, so I'm a domestic violence and sexual assault survivor. And I talk about it because as a male, I don't see very many other males that do. Well, I'm posting on LinkedIn because a lot of the assaults that happen are predicated on meaning in work situations.
Hmm.
So I'll talk about LinkedIn, but then I'll clip that and then I'll also talk about that on Instagram, or I'll talk about it. Well, I stopped using Twitter when it became X, or I'll utilize it for YouTube. I don't believe that you need to have completely different content for all these different platforms. I think it's just about how you position it that can ultimately make the difference. Like for LinkedIn, if I'm going to do a picture post, it's going to have text to it, it's not going to have music. However, at the same time, if I take that same post and I bring it over to Instagram, I may create it as a reel, add a couple things in, add some music, and then it gives it a similar feel, but maybe a little bit more depth. So I'm utilizing the same content, only adjusting slightly. And this is the reason I'm able to do what I do, because I understand that when you're having to do all these different things and format all these different ways in all these different mediums, it's going to burn you out. So why not utilize that content? Even something as simple as a newsletter, you can like, and I talked to Katie about this. And by the way, this I'm getting a really great reason to razz Katie
Hmm.
because I've shown up for every single interview she's done for the last year and a half, and I'm not seeing her in the comments. Hi, Katie. But like I talked to her about this because I help her with the link with the Ecamm newsletter and explaining how to sort of operate it. And what I've said to her and what I've said to Fulgence and Anna is, well, you could have your newsletter that goes out to your mailing list, but then you could have that same newsletter that's used on LinkedIn, because not everybody on LinkedIn is going to be on your mailing list, but they may be after they read it.
Right.
So even something as simple as that can be multi-purposed for in a variety of different means. Or you take that same newsletter and maybe you want to highlight a certain section. Well, you could do one of two things. You could go on video and read that particular clip, or you could highlight it, put it in a text bubble, or make it look nice and put it as a picture post. Either way, you're utilizing that same piece of content, but there's no reason to do it 5 times.
Yeah, definitely. And I was going to say that I'm subscribed to both newsletters. So I'm like, do I unsubscribe from the LinkedIn one or do I unsubscribe from the Ecamm one? So
Here's what I'll tell you, and I don't want because Katie like truly is a really good friend. I don't want to overspeak, but one of the things that we are working on is developing her and Ecamm's LinkedIn strategy, and things like embedding videos into the newsletter and things like that. So I would wait until you see how that develops. Um, God, I love Katie. She never says no. But she has a lot on her plate, but she's constantly looking for ways to improve and step up, and that's something that I've had the true honor to be able to support her with.
yeah, she's awesome, and her and Doc just came back from Podfest and down in Florida. So
I was so mad. I was so mad I couldn't go. Uh,
yeah,
my parents live in Orlando, so I was like, and I had applied to be a speaker. I'm like, damn. So, but that would have been fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just, and I know that's just a different side of Ecamm that you can use it for podcasts because, hey, we should all do video podcasts now. So that's pretty much it. So that's good. That's good stuff. I'm excited about that. Let's see. Got some more comments out there. Let's see what they said. Hey. Steve Worthy is our friend. Yes, he is. Indeed, Katie is an amazing human being. Indeed, yeah, Katie is the mom. So definitely. So,
speaking of which, if Katie's watching this back, Katie, where's my Ecamm merch? That's something between her and I.
Yeah.
I
think she's recording her podcast like this time of night, working on her podcast. So
that if you're talking about the VHS Club, that's on Thursdays.
Oh, Thursdays. I thought it was tonight.
Yeah. So. That's Thursdays at 6:00 Pacific time, so 9 p.m. Eastern. Actually, I'm looking at my gold cup. I was the second one. I got my gold cup the second month that they started doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And immediately my first thing was, Katie, is this a cup or for a kid's play set? Because it's so small. And Paul chimes in, well, you could always send it back. Like, well, I can't use it. I drink more than, I think my kids had bigger sippy cups when they were first born.
So you just get the sippy cup attachment. It'll be great. Go on Amazon.
Yeah. I mean, the coffee will make it melt. But yeah. Oh God. But yeah, so the LinkedIn content, it's all about just being organic. And there's a couple of things I'm working on, and I'm trying to get some buy-in and that I'll share because that's going to affect the entire community. One of the big things with me is presenting people in places of opportunity. So if I have a big following, I want others to be able to utilize that and grow. And one of the things I've noticed is that there's no centralized place for all these different brands and content creators to sit in a space and share ideas or share what works best or present new products or new topics and things like that. So my eyes are firmly on being able to create and have it being almost a shared space. The only thing with me is that, and this is again going back to Katie, I don't usually do anything like that without Katie's buy-in, because I do owe her a lot. But that's something that's firmly on the horizon, and I'll be able to use my reach to create a really, really large, powerful community for us all to be in. And what's going to be great about that is if we're able to do that, then each creator in there. So let's say that Roy has 2,000 followers. Well, now you have a group of 15,000. Well, these are all people. These are all going to be new eyes for the work because everybody's going to have the same centralized focus. And that's what's really beautiful about this. When we find our group, when we find our niche, we're able to explore and create and build that community. Um, and my dream scenario is for you to have 50,000 followers, and Lala, well, I think she already does have 50,000 followers, and Valerie's already got 5 million followers. Um, and really work from there. That would make me happy because that's going to mean that there's going to be profit in it for you and for me and everybody. Uh, and that's just the way I operate. Hi, George.
Yeah, let's say hi to. There's music, by the way. So.
Well, yeah, I heard it. No, I wasn't surprised by it. You and I listen to very. I've always been one of those instrumental guys, and guitar. Like I have my guitar sitting over here. I don't play very well, but.
Yeah. Mommy Guy says that's great. That's great, Dan. An overarching platform that binds all. And she's saying hi to George. Hey, George. We're supporting, encouraging, and happy for everyone's growth. Love that, Dan. Yep, that is definitely what we're all about here as well as content creators helping other content creators. So that's always my goal. I do want to ask you a question about LinkedIn. Yeah. So is there a better time to post on LinkedIn? Because it just seems like certain times a day you get better traction. Is that something you've had experience with, or?
Oh yeah,
everybody loves everything you do, and it's just amazing.
It really depends on your demographic. And this sort of goes into my live event strategy. But if your audience is very isolated to where you live, like using Ecamm as an example, let's say everything was focused in the Northeast, and then you're obviously going to want to time it for that. But I've helped people in over 35 countries. I've done keynotes across the globe, including Nigeria. So there's a difference for me because now I'm sitting here having an understanding that even more than my posts, my videos have a shelf life. So one of my focuses is really working what's best. For me, 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern was a really great time for posts, especially understanding the way the algorithm works and how you can maintain the algorithm working in your favor, which I could get into in a second. But then, so that 6 a.m. was 9 a.m. Eastern, but it was also late afternoon in the UK and evening, I believe, in India. And it was also a good time for people in Australia. So that was a great time for me because it captured the most area that my reach was. But if I'm doing live events, that's a little bit different because live events are going to take longer and you want people to be able to focus. So when I'm doing live events, I actually separate it and I'll do the first live showing around 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 Eastern, which still hits the UK. But then I'll do a live replay for the other demographics and the other audiences. So maybe one for Australia, one for India, one for the Middle East, because I'm Israeli. And that way they could see it live at a time that works for them. And they're going to have a longer attention span because it's not going to be outside of their window of usual viewing. But going back to the content posts, just because this is an important piece for your audience. With LinkedIn, the way the algorithm works is that when you first post, your post is at the top of the algorithm, so to speak. And then when people comment, it pushes it back to the top. So it's like having your tub, and if you open the spout, it's going to start going down. But if you add more water to it, it's going to maintain or go faster. So as people comment, you need to comment and respond to those comments within 20 minutes. Otherwise they slow down. And then eventually, as more and more people comment and as their connections comment, then it becomes this rolling ball down the hill. And at a certain point, even if you stop responding to those comments, it will still, it may slow down, but it will still roll. So, for example, when I was doing that post that generated 100,000 views per week, the first 6 hours I was responding to comments every 20 comments within 20 minutes. By 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it had garnered enough steam that I knew I could comfortably let it go and still generate another 50,000 views over the rest of the week because people were still commenting and I'd be able to
Wow.
spot comment. And this is how it operationally works. Now, I don't get as many views as I could because the main time I have the ability to post is in the evenings after my kids go to bed, which is, as you saw, 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Um, so that won't generate as many, but it's what I'm able to do. Now, could I set it to uh, could I set it to post, tomorrow morning? Sure, I could. But I'm one of those people that if I'm doing something, I want it to immediately go out. There are very few times where I will sit and say, okay, well, I'm going to wait to post this tomorrow. It has to be really, really important for me to do that. Um, but I'm also at a point where people that people know me well enough that my audience is already out there and they're looking for me. So would it be nice to build a new audience? Sure. But I'm very comfortable with that, knowing that they're going to be constantly looking back.
Yeah, I mean, definitely with the audience the size you have, I mean, to get 10% is huge for any content creator. So, if you have even more engagement than that, that's fantastic. So,
I
Dan,
yeah.
let's talk about some
Right.
places where people can find you.
Sorry,
Oh,
real
please.
quick.
Yeah.
Audio. So one of the things I forget about because I don't like doing it anymore
Mm-hmm.
is social audio. LinkedIn audio actually generates a huge audience.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a content creator, I'm saying this specifically for the Ecamm people, you can record on the back end using LinkedIn audio, but it won't automatically record. But if you're doing something, I highly recommend if you want to generate um, doing those sorts of things. And what is that?
I have no idea. What are we talking about? What are you
Oh,
seeing?
damn my screen. So everybody, I'm using the OBSBot Tiny 2, and
Oh, okay.
you could obviously see that I have a lot of hand gestures being ADHD,
Yeah.
and my computer pulled from a different screen. So all of a sudden I had something on my screen. I thought it was, but yeah. So I don't like using social audio anymore, but
Mm.
I'm seeing people get 5,000 people in there.
Wow.
So just keep that in mind. Okay, going back to your question, where can people find me?
Yeah.
I'm pretty easy to find. I would say don't find me in the comments of Ecamm because you're probably not going to get the best me. Um, I join Anna and Fulgens to joke around and oftentimes try to make them laugh through my comments. Um, Katie doesn't like that. Paul really doesn't like that. Um, but I have a couple places. Obviously, LinkedIn is my primary medium, but you can reach out to me there. Facebook, my
Yeah.
website, my mailing list, my first workshop. Um, there's so many places, and I'm really quick to respond because I have OCD.
Yep.
It's true.
And then,
But yeah, go ahead.
now I was gonna say, speaking of your workshop, and I say I need to move my head out of the way, so everybody can
No, you're
see you.
good.
Here we go. All right. So yeah, what your workshop that you're coming out with? So the content and platform strategy with Dan Roth. Just tell
Yeah.
us a little bit
So
about
first of
that.
all credit in the world to Tanya Smith and Stephanie Garcia. And I know I talk about Stephanie, and Stephanie was the first person I ever met from Ecamm in person because she lives like 25 minutes south of me. And so after 6 years, it's really hard for me. I don't have the highest level of confidence in the world, but I wanted to get to a point where I could create something and really show people what I was able to do and how I was able to do it. So a lot of the information that you heard here, it's going to be taken that to another level. So within this strategy workshop, I'm going to be talking about how the different kinds of content um, are read by the algorithm. I'm going to show how you could gain and maintain steam throughout. I'm going to be talking about live event strategy because a lot of people have no idea what it takes to do live event strategy, and then the difference between doing a podcast on LinkedIn every week versus doing a long-term live event, and the opportunities it positions you for with sponsorship and whatnot. We're going to be talking about content for lead generation. So if you are looking to lead, what sort of contents are going to be best able for you to get that kind of stuff. I'll tell you straight up, and I'm trying to tell this to everybody because I want to make sure that the right people are in this. This is not for beginners. This is what I'm going to be providing people is exactly how I was able to do what I did in a very intentional way. The really cool thing about it is if you work through the way that I worked through, you're not going to be working 10 hours a day doing it. You're going to understand it and be able to process it. And honestly, you're probably already going to have a lot of the stuff to do it. And it's just a matter of making those changes and being conscious and knowledgeable of what those take in order to adjust. But yeah, this is a really high level, in-depth class. It's not meant for beginners. I'm not trying to help you figure out what your brand is. This is for those that are really looking to progress, scale, and grow. But I'll tell you something, and this is the first time I've said this out loud, because a lot of coaches are going to hate me for what I'm about to say. I'm a firm believer that I can take anybody and coach them up twice, and they're not going to need me anymore. They're going to be able to do it on their own. And if I can't, then they're doing something wrong. So this is not a cohort. This is not something like this. This is a very high level, in-depth class talking about what you need to do to be successful, spending the least amount of time, maintaining the highest level of mental health and most work-life balance.
Good stuff. And links to all that are in the description of this video. So definitely take a look at that as well. Definitely recommend you reach out to Dan and find him. He's out there, and definitely talk to Dan about all the wonderful stuff that he does and opportunity to learn great things from Dan. Dan, I have a question. This is a newbie question.
Sure.
I'm going to apologize. Is it okay for me to have my professional content and my unprofessional content on the same LinkedIn page? Well, what I mean is I have a professional profile I had for a long time, and now I've just added my content creation out there as well because I feel like that's a part of me as well. You think that's a bad strategy? Do I need to go create a different personality, another person profile?
Well, okay, so I wouldn't be me if I didn't say this before I went to that. If you're interested in taking my class and you simply can't afford it, reach out to me. I am working to get people to sponsor tickets for those that can't afford. I don't want somebody to miss out because I'm there right now. I'm broke as hell. Pardon my language. So reach out to me. As far as the question goes, if you're asking me if you should build 2 profiles, no, that's against the terms. But the way that I look at it, this is a very personal choice for me, Roy. I refuse to be 2 different people at home and work. It's too much effort. So I firmly believe that we can layer everything we do and not have it come across in a negative way.
Right.
Now, that's me. And I take a lot of risk with that when you see the types of posts I put out, and I know you have.
Yeah.
But so for me, my advice is I don't feel the need to do that. The other thing I'll tell you is I would not feel the need for you to say, okay, I'm going to create a business page for my content. Business pages are a whole different animal that I don't love. There's a lot of idiosyncrasies with it that prohibit a lot of people from being able to take advantage of it. I was talking to Kirk Nugent about this the other day. You have to have like 150 company followers in order to go live. You're oftentimes having to create double content, or at least create take the content and put it in 2 different places. It's not, so unless you're really, really, really out there with your stuff, I don't think it's a huge necessity. I would rather everybody just do something from their page or utilize the content leads. So having something in your featured section that shows people to take to your business or take to another page. That's what a lot of us do. Or you could even have a QR code in your banner so people could scan it. Somebody's looking at it from their computer, but they have their phone on them. They're looking at your personal stuff. Hey, I could look at this from my phone. Now you're getting twice.
Yeah, definitely. I pick and choose what I post for my YouTube channel on Instagram. I'm sorry, on LinkedIn, because I don't want to get too far out there. So, and so it's kind of like you were saying, if it's really out there, I don't post it. If the episodes that turn out amazing, I'm so proud of it. I definitely like posting those out there to LinkedIn to get people to click on it. And I've just been really surprised how much traffic I've gotten to my YouTube channel from LinkedIn because of it. So I'm gonna keep doing it. I'm gonna
Yeah,
keep
and you
doing that.
should. The one
So
piece of advice I would give you is oftentimes the most business comes from the casual observer that you're never going to see comment on your post. Uh, it's just I see so many people that are like, "Oh, I'm not doing well," but that with their viewership, but they're doing five-figure deals every day
wow.
because people are reaching out to them. Um, the other thing is because Mr. Hicks is here, and uh, Mr. Hicks, just speaking to you, quite frankly, you're in a different category. Um, I'm not saying you're in a better category because I don't want to insult anybody, but I understand why you operate that way. And for you, I agree with that. Um, James and I come from very much the same field, and there's a lot of legality that comes into play. Um, but again, every person is different, and nothing I say is meant to say is meant to broadscape things. It's all individual perspective. Uh, and you are a different kind of dude, James. But if I go down that rabbit hole, we're going to be in a different conversation. Um, the one thing I do want to before we go say is for anybody that's watching, if you do look at my LinkedIn profile, I can come across as polarizing because the stuff I talk about is not easy. It's never been easy. It's not intended to be easy. You don't have to go down that road. You don't have to make that choice. You don't have to be as vulnerable or talk about the things that I do. That was my decision because it was worth the risk to me um, based on my why and my foundation. You don't have to do what I did to have the same principles that I use and the same process I used apply to you.
Yeah. No. And I definitely can understand that. And again, that goes back to being who you are. So, and and a lot of times, if you don't like the flavor of who I am, I'm not your flavor. So, there you go.
Uh, it, I'm going to be very honest with you, Roy. When you just said that, I thought of the title of Gabe's show. Um, that was like I don't know if I'm just tired, but
Yeah.
that's where my mind went.
It's more like You
Um,
Bet Your Life with Groucho Marx. But anyway,
yeah, no, I got to tell you, it was an honor to sit here with you tonight. You genuinely come across one of the nicest people out there, and I can't wait to meet you in person. I have severe social anxiety, so I may like be shy about it, but you truly are exactly how you come across it, and that just uh, all credit goes to your wife.
she's trained me well. Yeah. What she hasn't fixed, she's still working on. So, it's true.
My wife gave up on fixing me a long time ago. Um, but yeah, it's definitely an honor. And again, if anybody needs me, feel free to reach out. I do owe a lot to the Ecamm fam, um, and I want to support in any way I can. So please don't read me in the comments of ENN News. Just feel free to
Yeah.
reach out. Anna and Fulgens are two of my best friends in the world.
Mhm.
So like I've had the honor of being able to work with Fulgens on different projects. Um, so like when anybody sees that, he knows it's in
Yeah.
jest. Although I really didn't like that couch jacket that he used to wear, but that's a different story.
Dan, thank you so much. I'm honored that you would be on my show, and I tried to get you on, like, and then I had that family emergency, and I first of all appreciate your patience that night. But as you are, family comes first. So,
Yeah.
and so that's
And don't
where
feel the need to validate. Like this
well,
is the thing with you,
you
right?
know,
You always feel no. This is because this is part of what I do.
mhm.
Like, y- I know that you hate not being here, but you're the only one that is affected by that. Everybody else understands, and that's part of the process of who we are and the society we lead that makes us have to feel like that. So, you know, let go of that because it's not doing you any good. Don't add the extra pressure.
Well, yeah, I can agree with that. So, definitely everybody go and hit those links in the description of this video and go find Dan. You definitely need to seek him out, especially if you want to master elements of content creation, especially in regards to just see the amazing stuff that he's done on LinkedIn. But as he said, it work on any content platform. And so, Dan, thank you for that, and thank you for creating a great course. And that's it. That's our show for tonight. I'm supposed to tell you to do something. Let's see. First, I'm supposed to tell you to subscribe, and then I'm supposed to play an outro and say, go watch that video that YouTube tells you is amazing and that you should watch next. Thank you so much for watching tonight. I hope you have a great evening, and thanks for watching. #replay. I need to see it. It'll work. I promise. Good night.